surveys, in an ideal world, when the survey is done correctly as part of a broad effort of listening, a survey allows you to collect lots of information from a group of people in a timely manner. It allows you to get ideas to form final decisions. And ideally, when you collect information, you want it to have a purpose when it comes to informing something that you're trying to do, either as an educator, as a school leader, as a team leader, a department leader, or a district or agency leader. And these are some things to consider when putting that together. So what do I want to accomplish with the data when I receive my survey? Beginning with the end in mind. What are the things that I want to do? So thinking about, what do I want to accomplish? What are the specific things? And I don't mean, because this is where schools, and I've experienced this as a school district administrator, when you go into a survey, you should not go with the answers already in your mind. If you come across and you come at a survey or a listening effort with the idea that you are going to have the answers and you're just going to go survey and connect people to the answers that you've already predetermined, you will lose authenticity, you will lose engagement, and a survey will come back to bite you because people won't trust you. Who is the survey's intended audience? Who you're trying to reach can tell you a couple different things. One, it tells you the method, and we'll talk about this more in a different slide, of how you want to go about getting your survey and distributing your survey. Understanding who in your survey is your intended audience helps drive questions around delivery, also drives the questions and how you frame and scope them. Another important thing to think about is what demographic data is important for your survey. And what I mean in demographic data is, things like gender, religion, economics, address, what their role is in your school district. And you have to have a very good knowledge. And this is something to definitely make sure you get feedback on and understand your community, because there are different demographic questions that make sense for different school districts and different communities. So what are the best methods for collecting this survey? So thinking about who is your audience and how do they best respond to you in a survey? So in some audiences, an email survey gets a lot of traction. If your goal is to reach a larger amount of people, you might want to consider other methods. When you're putting a survey together by yourself or for your school or school district, it's always important to make sure that somebody else is pre-reading the survey and testing the survey. I call this the curse of knowledge, and this isn't my concept, but it's called the curse of knowledge. So what makes sense in your head makes sense in your head because you're the one that wrote it, but it might not make sense to somebody else. And a bad survey question can invalidate your data from the mind of the public perception. You want people, when you do a survey, that they trust that you know what you're doing and you're going to use their data and you're going to use their feedback. So making sure that you get somebody else to pre-read and test your survey is important. You also want to make sure that the technology that you use, whether it's a Google form or SurveyMonkey or Tripod or whatever tool that you're using, you want to make sure that you test the survey across multiple different tools. If somebody using a cell phone, somebody using their computer, make sure it works, it functions well. If you're using Skip Logic, where somebody is asking a question and based on their answer, it reroutes them to a different question. That's called Skip Logic. You want to make sure that that works correctly and the survey experience is smooth. And you want to make sure that when you're testing and pre-reading these surveys, you're thinking of your audience in your mind. Who is taking the survey? And make sure that the people who are reading your survey and testing your survey are representative of that group. What is an important response threshold do you need to hit before you close your survey? So if you feel like you can inform decisions with 10% of your parents responding to the survey, that's fine. If it's a statistically relevant sample size, so if you're getting a representative sample of your parents, 3 to 5% can work well for you. In my experience, think about what those response thresholds are. Always set the date of when and think about when you need the data. Think in the end in mind, and make sure that when you set your survey end date, that you're giving yourself some time to extend that window, because you don't want to be up against, hey, I need 50% of my parents to respond to this survey, or my superintendent or my school board's not going to think this data is valid or valuable, but I also need to have the data turned in. So be thinking about dates and things when you're having that. So what is the plan for the data after the survey closes? But I can tell you that a best practice for a survey is to have a plan on how you're going to share that data and how you're going to present the information after. At Ed Elements, our founder, Anthony Kim, wrote this book the new school rules. And in there, he wrote about a concept called the 3x3 method. The idea of the 3x3 concept is to think about 3 different ways that you're going to share information in 3 different channels, 3 different outlets, and 3 different ways to do it in each. So if one of your outlets is going to be, I'm going to send this information about this survey results in an email, you're going to send the information out in 3 different ways via email. Maybe one is going to be, you're going to post a flyer in the staff break room because it's a staff survey and you want them to know what you heard in their staff climate surveys. You're going to put 3 different flyers for them to read, 3 different main ideas. The other way to think about the 3x3 is to present information in 3 different levels of detail. A significant amount of people aren't going to read a lengthy or raw data report, but some people are. Just because everybody is not going to read the long data report doesn't mean that somebody's not going to want to see that. And then the most important thing, which is one of the hardest things to do when it comes to collecting data, is to not only tell people that you heard them, but to tell them how their survey results, how what they told you were impactful in what you are doing. To show the impact in your surveys creates a listening culture where people will continue to come and trust and believe in you. And over time, the power of impact is that you will see a shift in your organization and in your change as people will trust you and see that you're trying to get improved. Now I'd like to spend some time with some sample questions. And these sample questions are rooted in our Tripod 7C survey. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because when all of the surveys that we work with at Elements, the 7C survey is the survey that has hit the highest standard, because it was funded and vetted through the MET project, which was funded through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the 7 C's are care, confer, captivate, clarify, consolidate, challenge, and classroom management. These are the 7 competencies or components of our 7C survey where we have measured teacher effectiveness when it comes to a student's experience in their classroom with their learning. Care is to show concern for students' emotional and academic well-being. Confer is to encourage and value students' ideas and views. Captivate is to spark and maintain student interest in learning. Clarify is to help students understand content and resolve confusion. Consolidate is when we help students synthesize, integrate the key ideas. Challenge is when we work to push students to persevere and do their best work and to do the highest functioning work that they can. And we know in classroom management that we need an orderly and respectful environment so that students can learn and feel safe in their classroom. So some questions that you can consider that fit into these competencies. Care, a question that fits in that care competency: does someone in your school care for you? And that confer competency, are you encouraged to speak up in your class and share your ideas? Captivate, does your teacher make learning enjoyable? Is it relevant? Is it fun? We want kids to feel good in school. Clarify, if a student doesn't understand something in class, do they know how to ask for help? Consolidate, do you learn something most every single day? Challenge, does your teacher expect the very best from you? Classroom management, is your classroom environment under control and productive for learning? Again, these are very basic questions, yes or no, that fit into this spectrum, but you can use these and mold them based on who your audience is, based on what grade level, what role they play, and manipulate and get these highly researched components of what high quality instruction looks like.